Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I've got an interesting problem. A fellow gave me a reel. It's the Quantum Energy PT1 or PTi. And he said, I got a problem here. The bail is very loose on this side. Is there anything you can do? Well, let's find that out. So we're going to start by taking off the spool. And if I'm correct, this one's got a little adjustment Allen key on the inside of the rotor, and we'll see if we can't help the fella out here. It may be that we can't, but maybe we can. So we took that off first, and what I want to do is I want to remove the rotor, because if there is an adjustment right here, there's a hole. I can't see much more than that, but I need to get a tool in there somehow, and I can't do that with the rotor in the position that it's at. Well, these are kind of interesting reels. There's a double ball bearing up top here, at least, and there's a little E-clip that's holding that ball bearing on. So that has to come off, and we're just going to see if we can't push that out of the way and get it off. And it's always a little bit of a tough one here. Let's see if I can find a little screwdriver to help me with that. And I don't like working on the reels, rotors, and that with everything attached. It's just like you can see, it's just fumbling all over here. So I much prefer to take it off. Well, that's that little clip we were talking about. That's a little C-clip or E-clip. And I'm going to put that into a parts tray just to make sure that I know where that is. With that off, then I can remove the two ball bearings. Those are going to go in the tray as well. And the click ratchet. My tray is nothing more than the bottom of a fast food container. And it's there for the purposes of keeping track of the parts that I take off. And when I take them off, I know where to go for them when it's time to reinstall. Alright, we'll take the two pieces off here. Those are the screws that are holding the Loctite for the rotor nut underneath. And as I do that, I want to ask you all to subscribe to my channel, particularly if you like the videos on reel repair, how they come together, how they come apart, and how to service them if service is needed. And if you do subscribe, please hit the notification button. That will help you with the notifications as to when I post the videos, and you can choose which ones you like. I work on all kinds of reels. This is a freshwater reel, but I work on spinning. I work on kind of old vintage reels. I work on saltwater and trolling reels. Whatever a customer brings in generally can be serviced, and those services for the most part wind up being videos. There's a little cap underneath the piece that I didn't take out yet. And then the rotor nut can come off. Notice that the rotor nut's got two sides. One's a rounded side, the other is the hex nut. Hex nut goes up. And I didn't mention it at the time, but I use a deep socket. This is a 12mm socket. And it can fit over that axle shaft, and it can help you remove it. You may be able to get by with that wrench, but I like to use this. It's easier. All right, we're going to remove this now. And that'll give us access to find out just what that piece is under there, and see if we can't find a way to tighten that up if one exists. All right, I'm going to just grab a set of micro screwdriver bits, and I'm not quite sure what we got there, so I'm going to start with a little Torx wrench and see if that happens to be it. Well, that's not big enough. Okay, stop the video because I was wrong. That was not a Torx. That happens to be an Allen key. And now I've got the right Allen key. I think it's just a matter of tightening this. Yeah, that was loose. All right, tightening it up. Let's see if that's taken the wiggle out of it. It certainly has. Well, to some extent. Let's see if we can get up to maybe just a little bit more on that tightening. So there's a couple of reels that use this kind of technology. Just be aware of them. For example, if you're on a Penn Fierce reel, then one of the things you're going to notice is that where the bail wire joins the arm, there's going to be a little hex nut there as well. Here's one here, right? You can use that hex nut on the back of this. So just be prepared. Don't always look for just a screw. Well, there's a little bit of wiggle, but we've certainly taken a whole lot more out of that than was in there before. I think that's going to work. So let's go ahead and put this back together again. We'll just simply put the rotor back on. And we have that little, well, the rotor nut goes on next. And this is a good place to tell you, take pictures along the way, because if you forgot, well, you can go back to the pictures and take a look. And I certainly have done that here. I've done that with the video, and that's helped me more times than not to understand exactly what the procedure was to go forward. And speaking of going forward, let's test that bail. Well, there's still a little bit of play there, but not as much as there was. So that's kind of what the problem is. And now we just want to reassemble. Put that tie-down cap on. Might just be a little bit over-tightened. You want to align the holes in the rotor with the holes in that tie-down cap. We've got the 2 screws, and as I go putting this in place, this is a good point to suggest to you, if you have questions on this or any reel in particular, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you have a reel and you just don't know what the cause of a particular problem is, or maybe it's just a general question about fishing equipment. I get that every now and then. What rod should I match up with the reel that I have? Those kinds of things. Well, if you leave them in the comments section, I do try to answer them, at least if I know the answer. And if I don't know the answer, I'll try and tell you where you might be able to find the answer. And it's not as complicated as it used to be. It used to be very complicated before the internet, but now a lot of these resources out there do enable you to learn more just simply by going to the internet and doing a search. Okay, we've got the click ratchet, and we've got the, well, I guess that can go on with the bearing. Yeah, we're gonna want to put that on, put the bearing on first. There's a bearing and a little washer. A little washer goes on first. Kind of hard to see. This one, I always am amazed. They want to put a lot of ball bearings on the reels, and a lot of times that ball bearing is in what I'll call a minimalized place. And this is, to me, this is one of them. This is going to only come into play when your drag is being used. And I understand the need for a light drag and backpedaling a reel and all that other sort of stuff. But to me, if you don't have the bearing, well, you're not going to lose that much. All right, with that first bearing on, we can now put that washer over it. Let's get that second bearing on, and then that little E-clip. And that sits right on top of that last bearing in that groove. Sometimes these are easy enough that you can put them on by hand, and I was just able to do that. I snapped that right in. It's in the ridge that's holding the bearing on, and all we have to do now is just take the spool, replace that spool, place the button, and let's give that one more test there. It certainly tightened it up. There's no question. There is still some free play there. I think there has to be a certain level of free play. You're not going to have it completely tight because then it wouldn't close. But that's improved over what it was, and I know that because when we inserted that Allen wrench into that little screw there, it made almost a quarter of a turn, maybe a little bit more. So no question that's what was doing it. And if you see, if I push side to side up on the top, which I was able to have a lot of movement before, there is no movement. So that's how you do it. So if you have a loose bail, or if you have a loose bail wire on the, like I said, on the Penn Fierce side, you're going to find where that bail wire attaches to this arm. There's going to be a little Allen key adjustment there as well. So just a quick way to show you a little tip on the tools you're going to need. And if you have this this Quantum PTi Energy, well, once you take that that assembly off like we did, and you remove the rotor, well, you had access to the top. You're going to notice that there's a couple of screws there. You're going to remove the bump guard down here and find another screw, and that'll give you access to the inside case where you can complete the servicing of this reel. So I hope you've enjoyed that. To everybody who's a first responder, thank you for all it is that you've been doing all along, for your help during the pandemic, and for your efforts throughout. To everybody, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.